Tonight on The Rebound, Colorado, we are all anxious to return to our pre-pandemic lives. But what is and is not safe for us to do once we're vaccinated?
Everyone, whether vaccinated or not, should continue to avoid medium and large-size gatherings, as well as non-essential travel.
Plus, we look at the travel industry and the adaptations companies have made to survive this past year. Thank you for joining us for The Rebound, Colorado's special report. I'm Shannon Ogden. Today, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention released new guidelines for what vaccinated people should and should not do. While the guidelines give more freedom to spend time with others, still is discouraged people traveling unless absolutely necessary. Liz Gilardi has that story.
So grateful so many people care about me and I care about them.
Joanne Greenlee turned 90 last summer, and all she wanted to do was celebrate with her family. But visits haven't been as often as she would like.
Have my daughter come, for 20 minutes were nice, but that wasn't long enough. And then when they said I could go out to lunch.
For the first time in a year, she got to leave her nursing home and go shopping with her daughter, Lola Bryn. They're both vaccinated. Lola hopes the new CDC guidelines means the family can sit down together for dinner.
The family hasn't seen her since Christmas of 2019. And so the fact that, that we may be able to even get together for Easter.
The new guidance says vaccinated people can get together with others who are also fully vaccinated in small groups inside their homes without a mask or social distancing. And they can visit unvaccinated people who are at low risk for severe disease.
But it certainly makes sense, and it's really great news for grandparents who want to see their grandchildren.
Dr. Richard Zane with UC Health also hopes this news will encourage more people to get a vaccine.
I think the vaccine is the light at the end of the tunnel, and this recent CDC guidance about vaccinated people is 2 steps towards that light at the end of the tunnel.
For Jolene, the vaccine means freedom. It means she will be able to see her family, have dinner at her daughter's house, and since she's hard of hearing, she's glad they won't have to wear masks.
Oh, it means the world to me because I didn't get to spend Christmas or Thanksgiving with my kids, and I was so down in the dumps because I was looking forward to it. That's the first time I couldn't go see them.
Lola is already making plans for Easter, hoping her mom won't have to spend the day alone.
It's going to be great, and the kids are going to look forward to seeing her too.
Liz Gilardi, Denver 7.
The travel industry has made multiple changes over the past year to better protect travelers, reassure them that the risk of traveling during the pandemic is low. Well, Denver 7's Jason Grenauer examines what adjustments have been made and how they'll change your next vacation.
2020 was a year of unprecedented declines in the travel world. International tourism dropped 80%. Airlines lost $84 billion. And the future is still unclear for many destinations and methods of travel.
The last 12 months have been unlike anything we've ever seen.
Unlike anything travel agent Christy Osborne has seen in her 34 years of experience. And even as vaccines start going into arms, she says it'll be a long game to recover.
We see a lot on the books for 22 and 23. And what we are seeing for 21 is very short time frame where they're going to book their trip.
While some resorts are reopening in places like Hawaii or Mexico, Europe and Asia remain mostly closed, and the entire U.S. cruise industry remains docked.
I do think it will recover. I do think it will take numerous years to get back to what we were pre-COVID.
It will likely take airlines years to recover as well, though there are some positive signs.
We're seeing some good news. We're seeing bookings pick up slightly.
Airline expert Clint Henderson works at The Points Guy. He says expect mask mandates on planes to stick around for a few years, as well as some continued flexibility given to passengers in changing or canceling their flights.
I don't think any of that's going away because the business travelers are not coming back this year, probably not even next year. And those are where the airlines really made their money. Now they're really dependent on you and me going to Vegas for the weekend. So they're much nicer to us as customers.
Some things will likely change, according to Henderson. That free middle seat will be filled if it hasn't already, and those top-to-bottom spray downs may not be as impactful as they are expensive and may change as well.
They're going to have to scale back some of these moves they made, especially the ones that may not be as productive as we first thought they might be.
But Condé Nast travel editor Aaron Florio says once you get to your destination, hotels may greet you with a new sign of safety.
You likely see a seal on the room, much like you used to see a seal sometimes on the toilet once they cleaned the toilet, just to let you know that people have been in there and they've cleaned it.
Experts agree that in an industry as big as travel, hit as hard as it was, it will take years to rebound. Some changes like masks and cancellation policies will stick around. New ones will be adapted, like cleaning procedures, and others will fall off as restrictions are eased, borders open, and people feel more comfortable taking that vacation. In Denver, I'm Jason Grenauer, Denver 7.
Earlier today on the Denver 7 Facebook page, we asked where you're traveling once the pandemic is over. And most of the responses focused either on seeing family for the first time in more than a year or, well, just shaking off some cabin fever. Clarita told us she's heading back to Hawaii to visit family. Daniel plans to do the same thing in Detroit and the Windsor area. Barbara has what most of us have on our mind after a Colorado winter, some island paradise time. And the conversation's still going on the Denver 7 Facebook page. Or if you have a comment, you can email us 360@thedenverchannel.com. If you do plan to travel in the near future, you may want to consider purchasing travel insurance to protect yourself against big medical bills for COVID hospitalizations and other potential injuries.
I myself was out in San Francisco area north of there with my husband a couple of years ago, and I ended up with a blood clot and ended up in the hospital over the weekend. And I had $60,000 in bills before you could blink an eye.
That was Vice President of Travel Product Services for AAA, Debbie Haas, explaining her own experience there. And she says her insurance covered the entire cost of her hospital stay. It took some arm twisting by the Attorney General's office, but a Wheat Ridge-based travel company has agreed to refund 400 Coloradans for canceled trips. Voyagers International put together European tours for high school students and their families. Well, the AG's office says the company provided refunds when trips were canceled by the pandemic, but kept a $1,900 cancellation fee. Anyone who signed up for an extended trip was charged an extra $760. We called Voyagers for comment today. Nobody picked up. Still ahead, we get some answers to some of your biggest post-pandemic travel questions. Plus, one of the most popular ways to travel also is one of the safest.
RV trips give you a tremendous amount of control around your surroundings.
We know a lot of you have a lot of questions about what is and is not safe for you and your family to do when it comes to traveling. Well, Denver 7 digital journalist Oscar Contreras sat down with Senior Director of Communications for the American Society of Travel Advisors to get you some answers.
What can you tell us about the current trends that you're seeing in travel at the moment?
Well, travel is top of mind for most Americans. In fact, our research indicates that 87% of Americans are planning a summer travel trip, with most of them planning 2 trips for this summer. So as more Americans get vaccinated, the desire to plan travel is top of mind, and the what's next conversations are being had right now. So we know that 28% of travelers would travel as soon as possible after their vaccines, with another 21% saying that they'll travel within 1 to 3 months. So that's really great news. But what we know is that the trips are going to be longer, and they're going to include friends and family. So multi-generational travel is trending right now. As schools are back to in-person learning, some families are still doing the hybrid model. So for parents that are working remotely, this creates an opportunity to extend those journeys while still being able to plug into work and school.
How will the pandemic change the way we travel in the future?
There's going to be a lot of questions in the future, and things are going to change. Restrictions and regulations are going to change, and we're just in the beginning of that process of figuring out how we're going to manage digital health credentials. So right now, we have to have a negative COVID-19 test in order to return to the United States. So far, we've been able to adapt, but there will be more of that. There will be more need to have testing availability in the destinations that Americans are traveling to. So we're going to need to make sure that we're paying attention to those restrictions for both inbound to the U.S. and outbound travel. So there's going to be a lot of changes, as I mentioned. So making sure that you're up to date with those changes is going to be really important. And then, of course, proof of vaccination. There's been a lot of discussion about that. And so we're working on what that will look like as an industry with our other industry partners. But that's something that's really going to change the way that we travel. So between the technology that we have available and the science that we know, we're going to see a combination of technology and science leading the way to provide a fast and efficient and safe way for the future of travel.
Any tips or advice you can offer people looking to travel now and once the pandemic is over?
Sure. So for travelers who are looking to travel now, make sure that you're working with a professional or that you understand what all of these new rules are. So do you have access to testing to be able to have a negative test upon your return to the United States within 72 hours? That's something that's really important to make sure that you're getting lined up as you're planning your trip if you are traveling now or in the near future. You do need to have proof of a negative COVID test that's 72 hours active, if you will. So make sure that you have access to testing if you are planning to travel now and in the future, because that's going to be a rule that remains. And then I would also make sure that you understand the COVID-19 protocols at the destination that you're traveling to. So take a look at the hotel's website, see what their protocols are, see what their guidelines are for cleaning. And if you can't find that information, give them a call and ask. Same thing for the airline. Just make sure that you're looking into those safety protocols so that you're comfortable with what they are. And then make sure that you're looking into what the cancellation and rebooking policies are for all of the destinations that you're traveling to. That's something that you want to make sure that you're paying attention to in case something does go wrong. And in the future, plan early and plan with an expert. You can only do your first post-pandemic vacation once. So if you're really looking to indulge and connect with loved ones and have a once-in-a-lifetime memory, please consider working with a professional. This isn't something that we want you to do on your own, and there are people who can help you.
One of the safest and most popular forms of travel through the pandemic has been RV road trips. Infectious disease experts say it's safer because you can better control who you come into contact with compared to plane travel. But if you are thinking of planning a road trip with your family, well, you should get your reservation in place pretty soon. Demand for RVs has grown consistently since the early days of the pandemic.
There was such a dramatic demand, and a big focus of our off season now has been to make sure we're having enough supply for the demand.
After the break, the travel industry's rebound could hinge on how quickly America is vaccinated.
I really do think that the vaccine is giving them some hope in terms of being able to get out there in a safe way.
While travelers have missed their chances to get away, the travel industry has struggled to stay in business long enough to see the industry rebound. Newsy's James Packard has that.
We are, as you rightly point out, seeing some green shoots.
Glimmers of hope in recovery for the travel industry. With domestic air travel still down over 50%, airlines, hotels, and cruise lines still eager for a recovery. And as vaccination rates across the U.S. surge, more Americans are planning vacations.
There are people who have just been rebooking. So those vacations will now, I think, begin to happen. And then I think other people are they just really want to get out.
An AARP survey found more than half of baby boomers are planning travel in 2021. But nearly half of that group still feels it's unsafe, and their plans are tethered to vaccine availability.
We obviously see a lot of travel in boomers because they have saved up the money to do so. But I really do think that the vaccine is giving them some hope in terms of being able to get out there in a safe way.
It's an indication recovery will be slow.
Border closures meant we lost virtually 100% of our international flying and 70% of our domestic flying.
Qantas, the flagship Australian airline, stopped international flying last year and doesn't plan to start it again until this October, consistent with data showing travelers planning more for domestic-only trips. AARP says some boomers are planning cruise vacations.
People that love cruises really love cruises. And so I definitely think that as soon as those cruises start running, they're going to fill.
Most of those planned cruises are already booked, but it isn't enough to keep the industry afloat.
I just waited and hoping that the cruise lines are right, that somehow the CDC would figure out a way that we can get back into business.
John Morgenthaler made a living booking cruise vacations from his office near West Palm Beach, Florida. Lately, business has been so slow, he's had to start a new business as a handyman.
I already had a base of clients through my clientele in here.
A sign of the excruciating pace of travel recovery, all hinging on a devastating, deadly crisis. James Packard, Newsy, Chicago.
Thank you for watching this Denver 7 special report. You can find all of our Rebound content by hitting your back button, then navigating to the Rebound section of our homepage, or just go online to thedenverchannel.com. Good night.